Hey everyone, welcome to Amanda's Book Corner. I'm Amanda, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about some controversial book opinions that I hold that may or may not be very popular with the greater book community out there. There are plenty of different things that book people like to debate over, and I just thought I'd share my personal opinions and preferences about certain things. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think and if you agree with me or disagree with me, and have a little conversation about that. So please comment below. And so, without further ado, here are some of my personal controversial book opinions in no particular order. So let's dive in. Number 1, I hate the rainbow bookshelf look. I know this has been a very popular trend in recent years. People love to organize their books by color, having a little rainbow behind them of books in red and then orange and then yellow and so on. And I know that this looks nice aesthetically, but I hate it. I really just hate it. I hate how it looks, first and foremost, but more than that, I don't think there's anything functional about it. When I'm trying to find a particular book that I want to read, I don't think, what color is that book? No, I think about what genre it is or what the author is. It might not be obvious to you, but the books behind me I currently have organized by what time they're set. I know that's kind of a weird and unconventional way of organizing books, but currently I have them set from the top, the farthest back in time, to the bottom, which is the most recent contemporary books, basically. But sometimes I like to organize my books by genre. Sometimes I organize them by what country they're set in. Sometimes I organize them by author's name alphabetically. I do have a weird habit of reorganizing my bookshelves every few months, every year or so. No, it's more often than that, every few months. But even so, I've never done the rainbow bookshelf look, and I don't think I ever will. Number 2, I do prefer hardcovers over paperbacks. I know this is a very contentious one, that I think it's about 50-50 about whether people prefer hardcovers or paperbacks. Personally, I think hardcovers just look nicer. They look more official, and they tend to stay in better condition for longer. Paperbacks, especially the mass market paperbacks, they can get kind of cracked in the spine, and I don't really like that look. I know it makes them look well loved and like they've been read many times, which is a great thing, but I like my books to stay in pristine condition, so hardcovers for me. On a related note, my third controversial book opinion is I do not understand why people remove the dust jacket from hardcover books when reading them. I didn't know people even did this until maybe a year ago, and suddenly everyone in the different book groups that I'm in on Facebook started saying, oh, I always remove the dust jacket when I'm reading. I don't know how people can read it with the dust jacket on. And I was shocked. I wasn't just shocked that some people do that, but that so many people do that. To me, I don't really see the point. Like, I've never had an issue with the book just falling out of the dust jacket while I'm holding it, so I'm not sure if we have bad technique holding the books or what, but I think it's weird. So yeah, I like to read hardcover books for the most part, and I like to keep the dust jackets on when I'm reading them. Number 4, audiobooks 100% do count as reading, and if you don't think so, you are kind of being an ableist person, and that is not a good look. There's been this long-standing debate about whether or not audiobooks count as reading, and of course they do. It's still a book, you're just intaking it through your ears instead of your eyes, but that's still reading. Just keep in mind that there are plenty of people out there who have a harder time reading. If someone's dyslexic, it can be hard to read in the traditional paperback, hardcover, ebook format. But audiobooks can be a great way to get the same story in a way that works better for them. Another thing is, we live busy lives, and if it's hard to squeeze in time to read, listening to audiobooks while you're in the car commuting, or while you're doing the dishes, or while you're working out is a great way to read books in a way that allows you to multitask while doing other things that you have to do. And those books totally count. I count audiobooks in my total books read every year, so I think this debate really just needs to end already. Audiobooks do count as reading. Thank you very much. Alright, now let's talk about movies. Number 5, I do not think that movies are always worse than the book. I do not think that books are always inherently better than the movie. I mean, sure, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of movies that are adapted from books and they just kind of butchered it, or they just made too many changes and it doesn't really capture the same feeling that the book had. However, I think there's many movies that do the book justice, even if they do make certain changes. Remember, it's a different format, and so you can't expect it to be exactly the same. That's what a miniseries would be for. But I think plenty of movies do a great job of adapting the book, even if they do make some changes. And furthermore, here's a really controversial opinion. I think there are some movies that are actually better than the book that they're adapted from. Yes, I said it. I think there are some that are better. Don't hate me, but it's true. I'm a bookworm like anyone else. I love books. I read more books than I watch movies per year, so I am more of a book person, but I don't have anything against movies, and I don't have anything against movie adaptations of books. Here's another really controversial one about movies. Number 6 is sometimes I actually prefer watching a movie so I don't have to read the book. Hear me out. I have a huge TBR. I have so many books that I have on my shelves that I plan to read. Last time I counted is about 220 unread books behind me. That's horrible. And that doesn't even count all the books that I want to get and I'm holding myself back from buying because my house is going to explode with too many books that I haven't read if I keep buying books. I want to read all the books in the world. However, I'm not a fast reader. It takes me some time to get through books and I can't read them fast enough to keep up with everything I want to read. Movies, however, I can watch a movie in an hour and a half or 2 hours depending on how long the movie is. And so when a book is adapted to a movie, I'll think, hey, this is great. I can watch the movie and now I don't have to buy the book. Now I don't have to read the book. For me, it's actually kind of a weight off my shoulders. I know that might sound weird, but to me it's easier to just sit down, watch a movie for 2 hours and be like, all right, that book is no longer on my TBR, I'm good to go. Honestly, it just makes me feel a lot better and it gives me more time to get to the books that are not adapted to movies. I don't always do this, by the way. Sometimes I watch a movie and I still want to read the book. Sometimes I'll hold off on watching it until I've read the book. It really depends, but in some cases I think it's a pretty good alternative. Number 7 is I don't really think that kids should be taught to read or to love reading through reading the classics. When I was in high school, as I remember, in my English classes, we were always being assigned to read classic novels. I remember reading part of Beowulf and all of Romeo and Juliet, and then later Jane Eyre, and so many different classic novels. And I think it's great to read the classics, but I think if you're trying to get students to foster a love of reading and to get into the habit of reading, making them read classics is not the way to go about it. Classics are kind of hard to get into. They were written a long time ago, and so they have kind of archaic ways of talking that just don't really ring true, especially if you're a teenager. And more than that, they often reference things that happened hundreds of years ago that, again, don't really ring true for the teenagers because it's not something that they're necessarily aware of or really care about that much. I think we need to encourage younger people, children, preteens, teenagers, to go out and read books that look interesting to them and that are written contemporarily. And I think that will give you a greater chance of them developing a love of reading, finding books that they really enjoy and that are interesting to them. I do still think there's a place for reading the classics, and I personally do like a lot of classic novels. I'm a book nerd, so I guess I'm not a slice of the general population in that regard. But even so, I think there's too much emphasis on reading the classics, and we need to open it up to reading other books that are more contemporary and just kind of easier to get into. Number 8 is if you hate reading, you're probably doing it wrong. And what I mean by that is that you're either probably reading the wrong types of book for you, or you're reading the wrong format of books for you. So this kind of relates to two things that I already talked about. On the one hand, if you're reading just classics or if you're just reading nonfiction, you might find them dry, you might find them boring, you might not really understand the writing style that they're written in, and it can be hard to find enjoyment from reading those. But if you explore different genres, maybe if you want to try thrillers or romances or fantasy or whatever, you might find that you actually like those books, and that can kind of change your perspective on whether you like reading or not. I like to compare it to watching movies. If you just sit down and watch documentaries all the time, you might not really think you're a movie person. Or maybe if you don't like sci-fi, but all you've ever seen is sci-fi movies, you might not think you like movies very much. But movies come in so many different genres, and people are encouraged to watch these different genres, and that's how you find out what kind of movies you like. Maybe your favorite movie genres are action and adventure and sci-fi and like quest kind of movies. Or maybe you're more like me and you prefer horror movies and romantic comedies, which I know they don't seem similar at all, but I love those two genres. Maybe you like really intense dramas. There's different genres of movies, just like there are different genres of books. And just like movies, which have different intended audiences, they have kids movies, family movies, and then they have more adult movies. Books come in the same kind of genres. You have YA, you have adult novels, you have books that are for everyone, every different kind of person. And so If you don't think you like books, you probably just haven't found the right genre for you. Or, harkening back to what I said earlier about audiobooks, maybe if reading is kind of a difficult thing for you, you might want to consider reading a different format of book. Maybe you want to try audiobooks. Maybe you're an audio learner. If you're dyslexic, it might be easier to listen to audiobooks. Or maybe you just process information better through audio. Maybe that's just how your brain works. It still counts as reading, and you might want to consider trying it. Now, if you've tried lots of different things and you still don't like reading, that's fine. It's not for everyone, I guess, but I still think that I think more people would be readers if they were aware that there's more options available to them, really. Number 9, I actually prefer books that have multiple POV characters. I know some people get annoyed when there's 2, 3, 4, 5 different POV characters and they think it gets confusing and it's hard to tell who is who, but I actually like that format. I like reading different characters and their different perspectives on what's going on. I think it makes books a lot richer and more interesting, and it shows that different people's perspectives can really change how you view a story that's unfolding. I see it a lot in romances and thrillers, but regardless of the genre, I do tend to enjoy it, and I think it makes books more interesting and more complete, and just overall more enjoyable for me. Number 10 is I actually really do prefer romance covers that have the animated cover as opposed to the kind of clinch cover. So I did talk about this in a video I put out a few weeks ago about how I became a romance reader. For a long time, I avoided romances largely because of the covers. I thought the covers with the 2 people on the cover and one of them's clothes is falling off, I just thought they looked really repelling and embarrassing. I was just like, how can you read that? I wouldn't want people to know that I would read something like that. And so I just avoided the genre because I thought it was weird. But then I kind of got lured into romance accidentally by finding romances that have the animated covers. Books like The Kiss Quotient and Bringing Down the Duke and other covers like that they looked cute and friendly and safe, and so I thought, oh, I could read that, looks cute. And then it kind of tricks me because then I figured out, oh, these are actually romances. And hey, I actually like romances now. Who would have thought? But even so, I still don't really like the clinch covers. I think the closest I've come to books that have those kind of covers are the 3 recent Harper St. George books from the Gilded Age Heiresses series. But again, I don't know if they quite count because although there's an actual person on the cover, it's just the woman and her nice beautiful dress and you don't see the dude. So, I don't know, they still feel okay to me. But yeah, for me, animated covers all the way. Number 11 is I don't mind reading unlikable characters. I know a lot of people will avoid books if they have unlikable characters and they'll hate it or DNF it because they can't stand unlikable characters on the page. Personally, I don't mind. I think it's kind of fun. I mean, I'm not reading books to make friends, I'm reading them to be entertained. So I don't mind if they're being annoying or stupid or evil or just really manipulative. I mean, I don't condone their bad behavior, don't get me wrong. I'm not out here like just wanting people to be bad. But it's kind of fun to read about, and especially like in thrillers, it can be a little bit more rewarding seeing like you deserve it. You deserve the negative outcomes because you're a bad person. And it doesn't bother me. I don't know. I think it's just kind of more fun and just entertaining. And I do still get invested in the characters in a certain way. Not emotionally like I love this character and I hope they live. More like I'm really curious how this is all going to turn out and what their horrible actions are going to lead to. So, I don't know. This is why I like Lucy Foley's books, because although her 2 previous thrillers that came out and now The Paris Apartment, which I haven't read yet, although they're known for having unlikable characters and people hate that, I don't mind. Give me the popcorn, it's fun. Number 12 is I almost never reread books, and I don't really know why people do it so much because, I don't know, it seems like there's so many books out there to read. Why would you waste your time continuing to reread books you read before? I already said my TBR is 200, 300, 1,000 books long, and I just don't have time to read all of those if I'm rereading books that I've read before. This is not to say that I never reread books. Incidentally, I'm actually planning to reread Jane Eyre, although I haven't read that since I was a teenager, so it's been 15, 16 years since I read it. But I don't do that very often. I'm also planning to reread the Harper St. George series that I just mentioned. I want to reread the whole thing once the 4th book is out, but that's because I've kind of developed into more of like a fandom kind of thing, and I don't know if there's an established fandom out there. If there is, let me know so I can join it. But every now and then I think it's good to reread books, but as a as a general rule, I don't like to do it very much, at least not yet. Maybe when I'm older, I might have more time for it, but the rate I'm going, probably not. Number 13 is I greatly prefer reading books that are set in different countries than where I'm from and are about characters who are different from me in major ways. So we all remember a couple years ago, in the wake of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement really gaining a lot more attention, there were a lot of shifts in the publishing industry in terms of how many authors of color they were going to commit to publishing. It's still not good enough, I would say, but it is hopefully improving. But there's this general idea that white people only want to read about white people. And when I see people saying, oh, I want to read books that are set in different places, if they're American, they're like, oh, I want to read a book set in every single US state. And I'm like, why though? Why not read a book in every country in the world? So, I guess I'm not like the average white American, but I don't know, I actually prefer reading about different cultures and people who have different gender identity than me, different sexuality, different race, different religion. I don't know, I feel like the more expansively you read, the more of an empathetic person you'll become. I can relate to people who are different from me because I feel like when it comes down to it, we're all the same deep down. We're all similar and have the same kinds of desires and fears and everything that makes us human. Even so, a lot of people face different kinds of experiences. They might experience racism, or they might experience homophobia or something like that. And I think that reading their experiences really helps you grow as a person. So I reject racist people that only want to read about people like them. I think that is boring and outdated, and I think we all need to be reading a lot more diversely and more expansively and with open minds. And I don't know, I think the publishing industry needs to figure out that there are plenty of people like me who want to do that, but also that there are people not like me, people that want to see themselves in books. It's not like the US is only white, cisgender people. There's plenty of other people that deserve to read books too. And I do think they underestimate the amount of people out there that want to read books about diverse and different people. I never feel like I talk about this topic very well. I don't know why, but I'm trying, and I really hope that my message comes across and that we all can, I don't know, get more diversity in our reading and in the publishing industry in terms of what books are putting out there. I think the world would be a much better place if that were to happen. All right, on to one last lighter topic. Number 14 is I think we all need to stop denigrating genre fiction, specifically things like romance and thrillers. They are just as valuable to read as any other genre. It's not like literary fiction is the only thing that's worth reading, or nonfiction is the only thing worth reading, or the only thing that you can learn from. I think that whether you just want to be entertained, or if you just want to get different kinds of reading within everything else that you read, there's nothing wrong with reading romances and thrillers and other genre fiction. And also, so what if they're formulaic? Everything is formulaic. Every genre, no matter what it is formulaic in some way because that's what makes it part of a genre. So I think we need to stop having people being little book snobs about everything and kind of policing or turning their nose up at what other people read. Okay, so those were my controversial book opinions, and I think I kind of got a little bit too intense at the end. I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to keep it light and silly. But I failed. Sorry. Either way, I'd love to know what you think, what your controversial book opinions are, whether you agree with mine or disagree with mine. And regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. And to make sure you don't miss any more of my videos, please ring the bell to get all my notifications. I put out about 2 to 3 book review videos every week, as well as 1 to 2 videos like this one, things like listicles and vlogs. So thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!